And I got that. Oh, good. Someone hit the record button. That was a great idea. Inspirator is a term that my friend Pete Cohen, who I call the British Tony Robbins, uses to talk about people that not only inspire, but they really live the life and they get people to take action. So he's an inspirator that's literally impacted hundreds of thousands of people across the globe through programs, books, audios, and seminars. Michael's the founder of the Human Communications Institute, which now for over 2 decades has enhanced life very, very simply by helping people improve their communication, both in their personal lives and in their business lives. Michael has developed the human interaction technology, and that basically allows people to understand their known and even unknown psychological triggers that interfere with their communication and help them to get past that to improve their charisma and their influence and certainly leave their average life behind. Now, keep in mind, there's really nothing wrong with average, but I'll let Michael riff on that as he does so well. But, our average tends to hold us back. And so he wrote the book, Average Sucks: Why You Don't Get What You Want and What You Can Do About It. And I'll tell you what, I'm enjoying every magic page of it. And Michael's helping people literally in every category of life: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, impactful. And by the way, you still have time to send messages out. Let's pack the house because Michael is going to deliver as he always does. So Michael, I'm going to mute off and I'm going to turn it over to you. And
I love it. I love it. Dr. Bob, I appreciate the intro. And it's interesting, whenever you get an intro, how many of you would love it if somebody had, actually someone you respect and someone who's doing incredible things in the industry and someone who's got accolades in front of their names, how many of you would love it if somebody took a moment to share you right before you were about to speak? How many of you would love that? Anybody want that? Okay, a couple things. Everybody wants it, but you got to remember a couple things. When people deliver that to you, then you've got to deliver afterwards. So the pressure is on, Bob. And the reason I say that is when you start mentioning names like Miranda and Tom Chenault and Eric Worre and all these people that we've worked with in the past, it makes me bring my A game. But that's one of the ways we make it in business and life is we put ourselves under immense pressure, which forces ourselves to grow and to become what it is that we're capable of being. So I'm super excited to be here. I'm very honored that I get the opportunity to share with everybody here today. And I like people. Like I don't know if any of you like people. Like I love people. I love seeing people. So if there's any way you can, like, even if you don't like the color of the wall at your house, if you could unmute yourself and not unmute yourself, I don't want to hear you all the time, but if I could see your face, if I could see what's going on, or put up a stunning picture of you or a picture of how you wish you were, it's going to make it easier rather than me pretending that I'm not on a conference call and I'm here today. So this is going to be a fun hour or so, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. And I got to ask all of you a question. How many of you are cool with an hour and 10 minutes from now having a couple ideas on how you could do life better and life could be more fun and easier? How many of you are game on for that? Can I get like a half a hand up, like semi-inspired? Okay, very good. How many of you are cool with finding a few ways that you take your incredible product that you have, which has been time tested for years? Like, do you guys understand? We are not fly by night here with Organo. Do you understand that? We are not like, we didn't get created a week ago in a lab and somebody found a berry over in Africa somewhere and brought the berry back because the berry was eaten by a certain monkey. And because of that, everybody's rich and the company's debt free. Like, and so what's interesting is this is a product that people we know works, a compensation plan we know works. So we already know the opportunity works. Yet how many of you got some people in your lives that they need the opportunity for sure? Financially, just looking at them, they need the opportunity. How many of you know people like that? Anybody? And for no matter whatever reason, no matter what you say, they're like, well, let me think about it, or, sounds good. Let me check with my janitor and maybe he knows more. How many of you have people that if you could and it was legal, you'd smack them around because they need it? How many of you know what I'm saying? Some people need to be smacked around, right? Or with the product, like their skin, they're using stuff they buy at Walmart. How many of you understand if you should look around the customers? What's interesting is your products, the different things that you offer people, make the skin better, make the health better, make their gut better, make everything. And they're buying garbage, what's on sale. How many of you realize you get what you pay for? Am I correct, everybody? And in life, when you're 75 years old, you're going to either be laying on a hospital bed on a way out of the hospital, Or you could be on a gurney somewhere because of what you did with your body. And if you're smart and you go to a chiropractor or use functional medicine, you'd live till 90, 150 years old, or whatever God gave you as your purpose to be here. So this is going to be a very, very interesting training. So I get questioned a lot of times. People say like, well, Michael, who are you to talk about network marketing? Or who are you to talk about what's going on? I use the same skills that I learned in direct sales at 17 years old. I'm 45 years old this year. I've been around network marketing since I was 17 years old. I did very well, six-figure earner, top earner in a company. I've made a lot of money in direct sales. I still use the same techniques almost every day of the week. So I'm the guy that you want to call if you fly to Scottsdale and you're like, it's packed in town because we just, for whatever reason, we are a good place to come to because the weather's great and you don't have restaurant reservations. The same skills I use in network marketing could get you into the best dining place in town. And the reason I tell you that is I'm going to show you how to use these things to make your life better. And I also got to tell you right now, how long I've been doing this. How many of you have been around direct sales for a couple of years, or this is like your fifth company go around? And how many of you have done this prior? Anybody been a couple of years done this? Okay. So here's how ancient I am at this. I'm around from the VHS tape days. Like how many of you remember VHS tapes? Like, does anybody remember like a VCR for you young folks? And if you have a minute, and you're not using your VCR, you want to take this thing called your phone and say, crazy guy on the Zoom link, let them know. Even if they're not in your business yet, you want to like recommend it to them. And here's why, because afterwards they're going to, who are these crazy people that are having fun and a great time? And then you could tell them all about your company later. So if you got some people that don't mind being inspired and having fun, you want to take a second, grab the link and share it. Because in 20 minutes later from now, you're going to say shit or shoot, depending on what part of the country you live in, you curse or you don't. But what's amazing is I'm from Jersey. That's how we talk, right? And I live in Arizona now. So you're going to say, oh, I wish I would have told them. So I'm telling you now. So this is when I first got started in the business. I'm one of these people that I didn't have any advice from my parents on how to do business. Like I remember going, I'm from New Jersey originally. Has anyone been there before in New Jersey? Anybody been there? Okay. So I'm from Rockaway, New Jersey, and the rich people lived in Short Hills, New Jersey. So all the wealthy people, like if you see Sopranos, they go to the Short Hills Mall. My dad used to say, go find a wife there. You'll never have to work again. That kind of mall, right? And I used to say to my parents, like, how do you get a car like this? And I'd point out like a Lexus or like a much nicer Nissan product. And my parents would say, it's easy to get that car. Work hard and be a good person. Business owners typically have those things. So it's correct, business owner. My parents were an engineer and my parents was a school teacher. So I didn't really have any business owner background in the family, but I got into business for myself. I got into direct sales and I was told to work hard and be a good person. So my first sponsor in the business, a guy named Maurice, said to me this. He said, Michael, if you want to be successful, do whatever I tell you to do. And I was literally like young enough, like the military gets you at like 18. This guy got me at 17. They want to get you when you're still can let other people help you think correctly. You don't have it all figured out. So he said, he gave me like a list of paper and it was a sheet like this. He said, anybody who's interested, hand them a VHS and say this exactly. So I'm excited. He said, everybody's a prospect. So a guy knocks on my door and he's got a brown outfit on. He works for UPS. How many of you know what the UPS driver looks like? He knocks on my door and he brings this big old box to me and he hands it to me. I said, sir, and I used a line on him. Let me ask you a question. Do you pay too much in taxes? Because this is one of our lines. He said, I do. Do you have a job? And I got my list out. Do you have a job or a business? Well, I work for UPS. I said, well, can I give you something to look at? Hand VHS tape. And then he had to hand me the big box. I got a knife. I opened up the box and I go to hand him one. And he could tell by looking at it, hundreds of these. It said, build scarcity. Let them know it's your last one. I got 100 VHS tapes that just got delivered. So I said, okay, this is my last one. Can you commit to looking at it? He could tell I was botching it away. I handed him the VHS tape. I said, listen, man, I need that back tomorrow because there's somebody that wants it. I'm still giggling. I'm thinking I got 99 other tapes. Well, I'm thinking I did great. And it says lower on the list, you're going to have to give away a bunch because most people never bring them back. Well, I think I'm the only person ever in the history of direct sales that did not have to leave his house or really talk to anybody to make money. The next day, this dude shows up with a suit on and a beautiful lady with him, his wife. Okay. And he comes into the room. He comes into my house. He said, Michael? I said, yes. He goes, yesterday I was the UPS driver. today I want to join your business. And he hands this form and he looks at me and he says, congratulations. I had no script of what to do next. I told him to come to a meeting with me. But here's the funny thing about it. It's been almost, I don't know, like 25 years. I've never had anyone ever in the history of my life knock on my door to buy anything ever again. That was the one time in history that it worked. But what I learned that day is by following what works, you got a better chance than what doesn't work. How many of you would agree that there's similar things that successful people do that other people just don't do? Does everybody get this? Like, it's funny, all my billionaire friends in my phone, if I called them and said, dude, have you seen Ozarks? All my billionaire friends go, what's that? Hey, have you seen Mad Men or Billions? What's that? Because they don't watch Netflix. They watch their lives get better. I ask them questions like, hey, do you drink soda? They go, you're kidding, right? No, of course not. Because all my healthy, wealthy, successful friends that have what they want, they've got different traits and different things they do. So to give you a little bit of a crux of like, to explain what I do here today and what this whole training is about and really how to get the most out of it, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background right now and give you a little something that may excite you or it might not. I did come out of direct sales, but then somewhere along the line, somebody got a hold of me and taught me a few things that were almost like voodoo magic that I'm taking my time sharing with people all over the world right now. So how many of you have kids? Does anybody have kids or ever seen kids? Okay. How many of you would agree this is a dime bag for kids these days? This is drugs. How many of you understand that? Let's get real. This is an 8-ball of cocaine. Does everybody understand? It takes drugs and it gets your kid addicted and it makes it stare at it. And you think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We are going to find out later. I bought 10 years ago a website called Device Diet and Device Anonymous because I know it's going to be a thing down the road. I'm 10 years ahead of the game. I bought it knowing what it does. So let me explain what my background is so all of you can understand the benefit of this. If I were to say it simply, I'm pretty much a drug dealer. And people say, well, what do you mean? Well, I go to masterminds and I go to groups and I get with very successful people. And I teach them how to appropriately deal drugs to people, meaning the drugs that are inside their heads. See, on a daily basis, internet companies, I asked about your children, they're fighting daily to get your kids' attention. For instance, we get mad at TikTok, we get mad at Instagram, we get mad at Facebook because, God, man, my kids just sit and scroll all day long. So instead of getting mad at these companies, wouldn't it be a really good idea to ask, what are they doing that you're not? Like the reason your kids love doing their homework is not love doing their homework and they love Instagram is exciting and homework is boring. How many of you would agree with that? Everybody got it? Like scrolling is easy. And it's sexy and it's fun. And it's always releasing two chemicals inside of the brain, dopamine and cortisol, fear of missing out and fear and nervousness and excitement. And what's interesting about it is this is all we do. Like I got a very simple business. It teaches people how to get people's attention, lower the resistance, increase receptivity. How many of you would love the ability to get yours and other people's attention? Because I was teaching to another group of networkers today, and I said very, very simply, your team doesn't have a motivation issue. They're just motivated to do the wrong thing. They're very motivated to watch TV. They're very motivated to lie on the couch. They're very motivated to overeat, but they're not motivated to do what they want. So they're using motivation in a way that doesn't serve and help in a way that's missing. Because there's a secondary drug that I'm going to share with you guys later, which is really the gateway on how to hook people into this business and keep them for a long time. Because how many of you would love repeat customers? Because do you guys agree that's this business? Selling somebody the coffee product is useless. Building a customer that's still using it a decade from now is what it's about. A lot of you are like really good at the one night stand. Like, I got him to buy. And it's like, you got the one night stand, you got excited, but like, what about like the continued dating? And like, it gets better with time. You might have had a good first night, but how many of you realize if you do it right, it does get better? Do you guys get it? Like you can get better at this thing. Okay. So my desire is to get you to get it and to get things to make sense. So I've got 3 things I'm going to cover tonight that'll be super fun. Number 1, I want to cover with you why most people don't do what they say they're going to do. And you might say, well, Michael, why would you cover that? That sounds kind of negative. Well, here's why I want to really teach you that, because if human beings don't do what they say they're going to do, and you don't do what you say you're going to do, it doesn't really matter. So we need to get people to stop doing what doesn't work and start doing what does. The second thing I'm going to cover here tonight is why goal setting, and Dr. Bob may get mad at me after this, but why goal setting and dream boards are just awful for your psyche. And I'm going to tell you that is they're a good place to get started, but most people, their goals are set it and forget it. I think what you're really after is realization. Like people love a nice, when you're going to the chiropractor, a subluxation. They want to hear, I got some work because the gas got released in the body and it made a cracking noise. Like, oh, that was great. What's really wonderful is learning how to operate your body correctly, where sometimes it doesn't and sometimes it doesn't, where you live a life that gets yourself in alignment. So when you go, you get adjusted, you don't get rearranged. And that's what people don't recognize. We don't want to go to the chiropractor for being rearranged. We want, after a car accident maybe, but not for your regular life doing what you do. And the third thing is I'm going to cover is really how to inspire people, and the one magic question on how to get anybody to chase you instead of you chasing them, and how to start turning no's into yeses. What I mean by that is, how many of you would love it if someone said no to you, but they whipped out their credit card or they booked an appointment with you? How many of you would love a no to turn into a yes? Anybody game on for that? If you are, say I am. Okay, so let's get at it. And let's have a little bit of fun here right now. And I want to give you the basic story here right now. So when I first got started in direct sales, all I had was what my parents told me: work hard and be a good person. And I couldn't figure out why I was running into a wall. Now, what I mean by a wall is, how many of you ever felt like, what the hell am I doing? Like why is it easier for them and not for me? Or like, am I missing something? Or are they doing something that I'm not? If that's you, you could type it in the box, say, yep, give me a Y, or give me a hands up, so I know that's you. Like, what the heck are they doing that I'm not doing? And I was one of these people that tried to fight my way through the wall, and I couldn't figure out how to get through it. I couldn't figure out like what my issue was, what my problem was. And it wasn't almost until about 10 years in the business that I'm half burned out, fired up every which way, but I couldn't get myself past the mode that I was in. And I couldn't figure out what other people were doing. I was looking at them. It looked like I was doing the same thing, but I actually wasn't. And then it dawned on me a little bit later what the real issue is. Now, Tom Chenault, who's a good friend of ours, he talks about all the time. He'd call himself a recovering addict. I say he used to live differently. Now he's smart and lives differently. I think it's a better way to look at it. Step 13 of AA should be, I used to live that way, now I don't anymore, but I'm still getting with Bill W. to look at it this way. But Tom would always say, he'd say, Michael, the thing that people want most and the thing that they really desire, they got this thing they want, and then there's what they do. Like the alcoholic wants to be sober, but they do drinking. And the reason they do drinking is it's because it's an outdated plan that tends to work for them. So the best way I can put this for all of you in a nutshell is I'm going to draw a little diagram that's going to help all of you out. The reason I brought up Tom is the invisible enemy is so much more dangerous than the visible enemy, because you can't see it and you don't really know what you're working on. It's like when you finally learn how bad tap water is for you and you realize, I didn't see it. And then eventually you start drinking filtered water, or you start drinking bottled water and you go, whoa, my body feels better. It's the invisible enemy that's the problem. So I'm going to share with you what the invisible enemy is and why it's such a problem for all of us here. And I'm going to ask you to pay very close attention, because this part goes very quick and it's very inspiring to understand that you too can get through this and start getting what you want quickly and build a ridiculous organo business if you choose to. So here's where this invisible enemy comes in. I wish I had a great story. And I say this all the time, because when you've got tragedy in your life and somebody achieves to get through tragedy, you turn and look at them and go, damn, that person did something amazing. How many of you have seen somebody within this company, like they literally were in a wheelchair, or they had a problem, or they were dead broke and they made the business work, and it's inspiring? How many of you have seen that kind of thing before? Like, dude, if you did it, I can do it. Like walking, like, so Dennis Bird, when I was a kid, being able to walk again after being paralyzed, that's amazing. Or you watch someone who has wealthy generations, you watch the Men Who Built America show, and yes, women build America too, but you watch the show Men Who Built America, and very simply, you're like, dude, you got Henry Ford's kids all the way down the line. Like, how did they do it? How did they keep on making it happen? But the real issue happens down the middle, and where the real problem grows in the world. And over the last 70 years, I'd say this problem has grown and grown and grown and grown, because most people don't realize that there was a decision made prior to most of us being born that overrode biological functions and really has made success harder than it's needed to be. So how many of you agree that success with Google and everything that we have at our disposal should be easier, considering, we have access to things? So why is it so challenging for us? Well, here's where the hidden enemy came in. Right after World War II, they realized that people were nervous and scared. And up before that point, there were really only two groups of people: people that did not have, and people that were wealthy and successful. And people that didn't have, they wanted to be wealthy and successful. So they either did it or it wasn't their time to get it. And then maybe the next generation did it. Like I do better than my parents because we're always supposed to do better than our parents. And I thank God my kids are going to do better than me. How many of you are excited that your children are going to do better than you? It's amazing and it's exciting. And that's what we need. So what they did is they said, listen, people are nervous and scared right around the end of the 40s. We're going to invent something that never existed before. And it's a very, very simple concept. And they invented something called the middle class. Now, think about this, the middle class. People say middle class, such a great thing. But here's the problem with the middle class. You don't really have to do anything because it comes in 3 flavors: lower, middle, and upper middle class. And you're right down the middle, which means you're okay. How many of you realize when you're broke and you've got nothing to lose and you've got to figure it out? How many of you realize you're instantly motivated? How many of you understand that? Or you're not. But when you're okay, okay is okay. As long as okay is okay, it's still okay. But when it's not okay anymore. Let me ask a question to the box here right now. How many of you grew up middle class? You put MC in the box, or that sounds like motorcycle club, but MC or LMC for lower middle class. I'd love to see it. Or UMC, you jerk, you rich kid, right? But maybe put in the box, upper middle class, lower middle class. So people say, Michael, why is this a problem? Here's the problem. You don't have to do anything. And if you live in a world and you don't have to do anything, the greatest motivator in the world is not being where you want to grow, because cortisol, the fear of missing out, and cortisol, the fear of doing something, will drive you more than anything else. I promise you, if you're laying in bed, the fear of somebody breaking in is going to move you a lot more than somebody saying, if you go to the front door, you can be rich. I guarantee you will move faster when the burglar comes in than you could be rich at your front door. So we need to understand that our idea of selling people on a comp plan and like this product will make you live longer, people are just not as motivated as you think they are about improving their life, because the fear of loss is always greater than the greed for gain. So I want you to pay attention to this. What if I said your issue that you're having right now is the plan you have for your life is outdated? It's like an iPhone 1 and we're all on iPhone 87. How many of you understand it's outdated, it's old software, and you're using Windows 95 to run your life? So here's how it happened. I'll use an example here. So I see, is it Devin? Do I say Devin Edwards? Am I correct saying it's Devin or Devon? Devin? Okay. So let's just say he gets one day and he says to himself, you know what? I'm pissed off. Or you get Tony out there and Tony says, you know what? I'm sick of it being this way. How many of you ever said to yourself these words, never again? And you meant it. Like how many of you have said never again? Anybody ever said it? I'll never date someone like that again. I'll never act like that again. I'll never be overweight again. Shit. How many of you have eaten something, gave you food poisoning, and you said never again and meant it? Anyone said that? Never again eat oysters. Never again. I got threw up, right? I've done it. Okay. We do that type of stuff. I see someone going, yep, that's me, right? Or how many of you ladies said never again with a guy and you still went back for one more round? How many of you know what I'm talking about? It was worth it, right? But the point is, yep, got to throw it out there. I see somebody, I don't even know how to say your name correctly, but Perkis definitely knows who that guy is. But anyways, the point is we say to ourselves, never again. So we are driven our lives by 4 forces. So you see right here, it says never again in my sloppy English, right? And when your brain goes, I never want that again, instantly your mind goes, okay, I never want that again, but what do I want? And without thinking, in a drunken stupor, we make a decision for what we want based on being in a position of not having. Think of it this way. You're like a 9-year-old kid. Like my daughter made a negotiation with me that she was going to do a certain amount of chores and things that she was going to do until she was 18, signed contract to get that American Girl doll that she wanted. Do you understand when you turn 13, you don't care about that doll so much anymore. I don't care what country you live in. The American Girl doll is not important anymore. So she signed a long-term contract with me on chores based on a current desire. How many of you realize when you're pissed off and mad, you say, I'll never date anyone like that again. Who do I want? Someone that makes me happy. I'll never be broke again. I just want to make 6 figures. And what's funny is we live our lives somewhere between wanting and don't wanting, and we bounce off these walls. These walls is why most people get a migraine and a headache, because you ever been to dinner with friends, you know, the non-motivated ones, you know, the negative ones. What are they usually doing? Talking about what they want, bitching about what they don't want. How many of you know people like this? Talking about what they want, bitching what they don't want, talking about what they want. And they do it long enough that it becomes their identity. Okay. So what happens is you got an identity. And what is an identity? Here's what an identity is. Your identity is wanting something, not having it, not wanting something else, and doing the same thing almost over and over again on a regular basis. How many of you would agree that if you were to go to the airport, there's your ID that you give them to get on the plane, but also when you go to be successful, there's an ID you have. You know what your ID says? You make about the same amount of money you make. You're intimate about the same amount of times you are every year. Your body weighs about the same. And every day you wake up and you identify as the person you are. How many of you recognize we are fighting our identity of how we see ourselves every day of the week? Everybody getting this? So when you recruit a school teacher and you say, you could be a business owner, they're still a school teacher. They spent 20 years convincing everybody to be their school teacher, and it's great to be a school teacher. So in order to change, they need to admit, yes, I like being a school teacher, but it doesn't pay the bills that I need. So I'm also doing this business. But most people don't want to admit they need help. I've seen people walk around crooked like this and say, you got to see a chiropractor. No, our family doesn't do that. Dude, your spine doesn't get right. You're probably going to die. No, my family doesn't do that, because they identify as someone that doesn't let people help them. How many of you recognize stubborn people identify as people that don't help them? And if you get a stubborn person in your business, oh, they're not stubborn. They identify as stubborn. And that's where the challenge comes in. And the last piece of the puzzle is, how many of you realize that you're all good recruiters? I don't care how much you think you're not a good recruiter in this business. You're a great recruiter. You've recruited people in your life to drive you insane. How many of you realize that you've got people in your life, the assistant that quits, you've got your brother-in-law that drives you nuts, your sister-in-law that keeps on coming over to challenge you with your problems. You keep on hiring gardeners that don't do a good job. You recruit bosses and jobs to drive you insane. All of us create people in our lives to validate our identity so we can play that we're going to get what we want and live a life we don't want. And we all live in the middle. So here's what the middle is. The middle is something called your average. Now, what's funny is you're average, and that's your problem. It's funny when I tell very successful billionaire people they're average, because their average is their problem. Your average is not you versus other people. Your average is that feeling you get. Like, how many of you gentlemen have ever wanted to tell your significant other the truth of how you felt, and you just, it's like your mouth didn't work? How many of you have done that? Or ladies, you wanted to have a conversation with somebody you loved, and you hope they guessed. What's funny is that is your average that is taking like duct tape and making your mouth do that. Or the feeling you get where, how many of you have made a bunch of money, put it away just to have a medical bill come up, just have a party come up and blow all that money to something else? How many of you have done that before? You finally put away 10, 20 grand and boom, something comes up. That is your average keeping you where it is that you're at. So our job, and this is very simple, is to get out of the box into the one you want. So how do you get out of the box? Well, here's the deal. This is a brick wall. How do you get through a wall? So here's what you stubborn people do, because I know you remind me of me. You're hardworking. I'm stubborn. I'm tough. I'm going to lower my shoulder and go through the wall. What happens when you lower your shoulder and go through a wall? Like, let's just, maybe we can guess what it is, but what kind of things happens to us? Anybody know? We hurt our shoulder. We get a bloody head. We get hurt. We get tired. We might get through it today, but there's got to be a better way. So everything you want is over the wall. So there's a few ways to get over the wall. Number one, hope and pray it goes away. How many of you recognize we need a better plan than that? Okay. Number two, build a ladder, which means you got to take ladder taking classes. Number three, you get people like Dr. Bob and you say, I'm going to hoist you over the wall and let them help you, and have the courage to let them help you. But the last option, the most important one, is learn to outgrow the wall. Because how many of you recognize you live in the box that you live in and you make what you make because you haven't finished growing yet? The funny thing is you think you have. A lot of people say, man, I stopped growing at 18. Well, there's your problem. Okay, that's what's going on. How many of you, when you were kids, looked up to certain people, athletes, movie stars? Did anybody do that? I used to look up to like Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. I'm a hockey guy. Mark Messier was my hero when I was a kid. And I'd look up to these people like, man, they're amazing. How come we never looked up to ourselves? What's funny is, a guy years ago said to me, he goes, how tall are you? I go, I'm 6'6". He goes, when are you going to start acting like it? You play your life like you're 5'4". Now, there's nothing wrong with being 5'4" if you only physically were 5'4". But if you're 6'6" and you play 5'4", you got 13 more inches that you need to grow. What's funny is, do you know that if you would have played full version of you in your life, Michael Jordan probably would be looking up to you right now? But the problem is you stopped growing and then we stopped growing. So I'm just going to challenge all of you to ask yourselves, what areas do we need to grow? So I see some people that know me here on the phone. and on the Zoom. So you're not allowed to answer this question. For an opportunity to win an average sucks shirt, I'm going to ask a question and you've got to get the exact word. I know who you people are if you already know me, so you don't cheat. Don't give it away. Let them get it. I want to see if anybody does. I want you to think of what is the one thing, get ready to type, that you do more than anything else all day long. And if you get it, it's because you probably heard me say it before. The odds of you getting are not very good. Think, what else? Think, oh my God, you guys must be really fun. Hey, dude, have you checked her out, man? That chick thinks so hot. Nobody's ever thought anybody's hot from thinking. Oh, dude, you see how hard that guy works? Depends what you're working at. Breathing, procrastinate. And you're going to say when I judge, you're going to say when I give you the answer here in a minute that it's one of those things. But a lot of times we think we meant that, but we didn't. Like the IRS in our country, you could say, I meant to send you the full amount, but if you don't send the full amount, they don't care what you meant. You're still either going to pay a penalty. Do you guys understand? So here's the one thing we do more than anything else. And it's the most powerful technique that all of us need to get great at. I dedicated my life to it. And because of that, we've done a little under $100 million in sales in 20 years, and not for another company, for our company. So here's what I'm going to tell you what it is. And I'd say that's decent. We got to do a lot better. And here's the word: communicate. So I'm going to give you a term right now. Communication. I'm right now in the Human Communications Institute. Miranda, you're going to see this place in December. Okay. The Human Communications Institute is based on this principle. We believe that communication is the most underdeveloped and underutilized asset that we all have to getting anything that we want. How many of you realize you don't have a sales issue? You don't have a business issue. The way that you communicate with you and others gives you the life you have. The way you communicate about your workouts means your body looks the way it does. The way you communicate with your food is why you eat things you shouldn't eat. The way you communicate with your kids is why they act the way they act. You don't need to be proper. You need to understand how to communicate better. How many of you believe that if you became a better communicator, this business would get easier? How many of you understand that? Everybody catching on? So you've got to decide, do you want like a magic little one line that's only going to work for a week? Or do you want to understand, I don't care the modality. I've been doing this since we used to use fax machines. Do you guys understand? We used to fax our orders in. We didn't have, our web page used to be an index page in 1997. So the point is, what I'm getting at for all of you is to really challenge you and think about this, is that you need to become a better communicator. So the question is about what? Well, let's play a little game here right now. Here's the game we're going to play. I believe that all of you know what it is you need to do. But the question is, how do you get yourself to actually do it? How do you get yourself to take the actions that you need to take or get other people to take it? So we're going to play a little game called Get What You Want. And this game is based on a couple of very simple things. So I believe in marketing because I truly believe you can learn a lot from great marketing companies. And the medical companies, like the pharmaceutical companies, are some of the greatest marketers in the world. Like, how many of you would agree pharmaceutical companies are great marketers? Would you guys agree? Like, they invented words. Like, they gave me ADD when I was a kid. My teacher was freaking boring, so they didn't know what to do. They gave me ADD. What they didn't realize that MTV took my focus, and my teacher was boring, so I liked MTV better, and they blamed me. And in my opinion, fire the coach, which is the teacher, not the kid. We don't have to drug the kid. And ADD is wonderful. Do any of you have ADD? If not, you should get this shit. It's great because every wealthy person I know has it. It's a dynamic disorder. And what ADD stands for is I hyper-focus. So if your kid has ADD, what's interesting, you'll be okay. You're going to get a kid like me later down the road. It's going to be fine. They're just really good at focusing on this, not on that. And we need to find a way to drug them differently with the drug that I'm going to talk about here in a couple minutes. So the reason I say this is the drug companies have found words like depression and anxiety, and everything below depression is bad day, feel bad, insecure, worried, doubtful. And really, usually depression starts with things didn't work out the way you wanted to, and you just keep on playing that video over and over again in your head. Because what I mean by communication is we all have to learn how to control the movie theater inside of our head, the picture, sounds, and feelings, because that controls everything. Whether you're going to be scared of the chiropractor, whether you're going to let the company work or not is based on the picture, sounds, and feelings inside your head. But all of us need to start somewhere. So how many of you ever had a bad day before? Anyone ever had a bad day? I know I've had a bad day. Bad day. How many of you had a bad year? Anybody bad year? The hell, you turn one day into a year? What's wrong with you people? You need to turn a bad day, bad minute into like 3 and go, I think I'm done. We're not going to do that anymore. Okay. But you're going to learn how to do that. You hang with me long enough. Someone asked me recently, how do you deal with a bad day? And I'm like, I don't know. It's been a while. I don't know. I don't do that anymore. Like, how many of you understand? But this is where I'm going with this. I'm a gambler. I got a casino around the corner. I'll gamble. I walk over to the casino and I walk up to the guy. I get tipped off by the guy. He goes, listen, man, odds are 90% chance it's going to be black on the next roll. How many of you would bet money on that? I bet money on that. So I bet on things that are surefire wins. So let's play a little game here real quick. We got people from all over the world, all kinds of humans here. And I were to say right now, answer my question. Think about the last time you had a bad day. I want you to finish my sentence. I bet you said something like this. Finish my sentence. Why is this happening to? Finish my sentence. Me. It's funny. We all grew up in different houses, but we're all brainwashed the same way. The number one reason we don't get what we want in this world is we focus on our problems. Why isn't my business working? Why didn't the company ship on time? Why did the company change? Why my neighbor doesn't like me? What if they don't do this? The number one reason we don't get what we want in this world is we focus on our problems. And some of you are like, but Michael, that's not me. I'm a positive person. I'm happy you're positive, and I'm happy you go to Sedona and rub crystals in your brain and all that kind of stuff. That's cute, but I appreciate that. And you're probably a nice person. Maybe you live in California and you really go to all the positive places. That's fantastic. But here's the biggest thing. I'm also going to tell you, you're probably selfish. And what I mean by that is the most selfish people in the world, they focus on everybody else's problems, but not their own. What we need to do as people is we need to learn how to focus on solutions. Like my mentor, Jim Rohn, up there, that was my earliest mentor, a guy named Jim Rohn. And Jim took me on when I was a young kid, taught me the ropes. And what he said is, if there's a beer can on the side of the road and you leave it there, you're part of the problem. The second you pick it up, you're part of the solution. How many of you recognize we need to stop looking at the company and the industry, and we need to realize the solution is this? We're ill-equipped to do what we need to do right now, and we need to get better at this. How many of you recognize if you become a better communicator, the business just magically works? Does everybody get this? Like my best recruiter I ever brought in who was amazing. And my best recruiter I ever brought in was a guy named David Bramwell. David Bramwell was a Marine recruiter, spent 20 years at malls recruiting kids to get them to join the Marines. If you can get kids to leave the mall and give their life to their country, I think you can probably get someone to take $300 in products. How many of you understand that? He naturally knew how to do it. I'm not saying you need to go spend 20 years doing it, but he was equipped and knew what needed to happen. So the number one thing is you need to focus on solutions. And one of the solutions we need to work on is we got to stop focusing on our problems. How many of you recognize if you came to Bob and said, listen, tell me a few areas I need to get better on? He says, great. You need to get better at approaching. Let's go talk to 10 people, get better at approaching, and get back to me in an hour. I guarantee every one of you an hour from now could be better at this business if you worked on the basics. And this is what most people don't do. The second part of this equation is this, and this is one that hit me in literally in the middle of the night. I wake up with this great idea. I can't remember what the idea was. So I start flipping on the TV and I'm like, I'm looking for something to watch. And this guy makes a statement on like the church channel. And he goes, you know, baby eagles, they're a lot like human beings. And I'm thinking this is more like the Darwin Network, like church channel. Like this is interesting, right? And he said, when a baby eagle's born, they have a tiny little bit of liquid in their eye. And most of them don't know it's there. It's no different than our brains. We don't realize that it's our mind control over ourselves that lets us get farther in this world, not just hard work. Hard work's not going to get you there. It's the ability to control your mind that's going to let you get the things that you want. So this baby eagle, when it's cold, it goes somewhere warm. Do you know what grown adults do when they're cold? Bitch and complain. Think about it. Eagles are smarter than people. They at least go somewhere, right? Think about it. How many of you got friends that go, damn it, this weather? Then move to Florida, right? Well, it's hot in the summer. Then move to Alaska. Okay, I don't know what to tell you, right? But the point is, when the eagle gets too far to the right or up or down, the liquid hardens and it feels like an icicle is getting pushed against your eyeball. So what does the eagle do? It says, I don't like this. So it gets back on track. And what's funny is when it gets back on track, the biochemistry changes in its brain and it starts to feel good again. How many of you ever said this to yourself? This isn't going anywhere. How many of you have said that? Like, this isn't going anywhere. Or have you conversely ever said to yourself, man, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere in this relationship, and you are getting somewhere called it's going to be over soon. But also, how many of you have been this before? Like your relationship's getting better, your health's getting better, business is doing better. How many of you have done that? Anybody? And the reason you feel better is you're making the magic thing happen called progress. You're proud of yourself. You feel like you're getting somewhere. And that's when the serotonin starts to leak. How many of you recognize our job as successful entrepreneurs? When we bring people into this business, how many of you have recruited at least one person ever? Has anyone ever done this? At least one person ever? Do you know that you're not responsible for their results, but you're responsible for being the best you said you're going to be? Like, I'll steal this from the Talmud. It's old. It says, when you save a life, you're responsible for it. So you're responsible for, as long as they're involved in that business, to be the best you can be as an example for them. How many of you realize if you're half-assed, that's one cheek and it's very hard to sit down? So my job for you is, we need to start making progress in our lives. Because have you ever met anyone that was focused on solutions and making progress that was depressed? I'll get my pen and paper out to make a list. Nobody. What's funny is, this is our job in our business, is to get progress for our people so they feel like they're getting somewhere. So you might say, Michael, what area do we got to get progress in? Well, one is communicating with people. I'm going to give you a magic line that I think will help you guys out in a big way. So getting people excited about the comp plan, that's not going to really work long-term. They'll quit in 90 days if they don't see the results of it. I'm just telling you. Getting people excited, the coffee and the products are going to make them rich and famous overnight, is not going to really work. You might get them in, but they're out in 90 days. What we have to learn how to do is change the frame of how we communicate with people. So imagine sitting down with somebody right off the bat and sitting down and saying this. So I'm going to call on somebody. We're going to have fun. So Dr. Chad, are you able to unmute, Dr. Chad? I'm calling on you. Are you there, Dr. Chad? I'm going to ask you to unmute. Can I play a game with you? Are you willing to play?
Sure.
Sure means yes or no, where I'm from. Absolutely. Sure. I don't, okay, very good. I like absolutely better. Very good. So let me ask you a question. What's one of the first things you say to someone when you talk to them about this business?
I guess it would depend on the situation.
How about you give me any situation?
Well, if I were to talk to you, I'd just start asking you about yourself.
Okay, very good.
Tell me about yourself.
Okay, so let me teach you guys a couple things. People do love talking about themselves, but talking about myself does make the majority of people uncomfortable. So I am going to tell you, How to Win Friends and Influence People needs to get updated. We live in a society of insecure people these days. So getting people to tell you what they like and don't like. If you ever want to scare people out of signing up for a business, ask them about their children. Because when you ask me about my kids, my daughter's downstairs right now. I'm at the building and my wife's going to pick her up in a minute. You ask me about my kids, I'm going to be half out the door checking on her. How many of you know what I'm talking about if you have kids? So let me give you a better example. So let's just say I sat down with you. What kind of doctor are you, Dr. Chad?
I'm a chiropractor.
Very good. I've worked with so many chiropractors. A guy named Patrick Tempo is a good friend of mine. So I've worked with a ton of chiropractors over the years. And what I learned about this is, when someone sits down with a chiropractic office or talk about organo, one of the things that I would do is I'd say, Dr. Chad, I just want to commend you in advance. And the reason why is, very few people care enough about their family to even have a meeting like this. Do you understand what I just did? I've just enrolled you because I have just said something to you that no one has ever said prior. I just gave you a DR on your name. I just made you a Navy SEAL. I just made you a badass. Then the second thing is, how many of you have ever told your kids you're proud of them? Raise your hands. Or an employee or a teammate. It's the worst thing you can ever say to your kid. Based on Pavlov's principle is, if I tell you I'm proud of you, then every time, like, how many of you, when I say Pavlov, you start to drool? Am I the only one that does that? I say Pavlov, I start drooling, right? But what's funny about it is, when I tell you I'm proud of you, you're like, thank you. Then you need me to keep on reminding you. Let me give you a different point of reference. Imagine saying this, and watch Dr. Chad's face as I do it. Dr. Chad, you should be proud of yourself that you had the courage to speak up right now. The second you tell someone you should be proud of you, it's theirs to keep. How many of you understand that? That is a game changer. It's a very different perspective. So I'm going to put you back on mute, my friend. Thank you for sharing. But the point is, it's a change in communication. How many of you would agree, when you sit down with someone one-on-one, one of the first things you need to do is say, I just got to commend you for having the courage to even do this. Like, if I don't care what you do for a living, if you sell Verizon Wireless, somebody could come to you and say, I just want to commend you in advance for really deciding to find a good phone. Whatever it is, you're giving them something they can't get somewhere else, which is serotonin and a dose of oxytocin. How many of you realize Netflix slowly gets you to connect with characters and drip your oxytocin, so you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering what's going to happen to the villain, right? We could do it right in our businesses right off the bat. So you might say to me, Michael, how do we get this thing? You mentioned this goal setting. Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the things we need to make progress on is getting better at getting the things we want. So let's just lay this out for a second. How many of you have set goals before? Raise your hands if you set them. Anybody set goals? Yeah. The problem with goal setting is most people don't get them. And what's funny is if I hooked a bunch of electrodes up to your brain, it would show that you would get just as excited and turned on talking about your goals as actually getting them. It's like a 1-900 number. How many of you understand like the idea of getting what you want? If you don't know what a 1-900 number is, you're probably on under 30. But the point is, it's fake. It's not real. It doesn't really allow you to get what it is you want. So think about this for a second. This is going to help you out. If I called Organo right now and we talked with one of the owners the other day, and I said, give me names of 100 people from all over the world. Give me some from Asia. Give me some from Australia, some Canadians. Give me some East Coast, West Coast. Let's get every ethnicity, color, creed, religion, and give me like every group you could. And I lined up 100 people, all walks of life. And I said, look, I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to do a seminar. I'm going to fire you up. Let's go get it. Well, after about six months, I would tell them to come back. Out of the 100 people, how many do you think would be successful? They all did the same thing. Here's the answer, 3%. So I'm thinking, okay, got it. What did the other people do? And what's funny is they weren't lazy. They weren't stupid. They did the same thing and it didn't work. So I'm thinking, okay, I grabbed the 3 and I said, tell me what you did. This is what happens when you go to convention. You listen to those people and you think you're going to do it when you go home, but you don't. So tell me what you did. They told me what they did. I told the group again. 6 months later, come back. How many people got the goal? You know the answer? No more. So I'm thinking they need subliminal tapes. So I find a subliminal tape expert. I send them away for 6 more months. And you know what happens? They still don't get their goals. And then it dawned on me, it doesn't matter how much you do the wrong thing. They could be good people, nice people, church-going people, temple-going people, Scientology-going people, doesn't really matter. The people that do the right thing that doesn't work for them, it doesn't matter if it was right or wrong. So let me just give you a good example of this. 3% of the world are decide and do people. You're probably not going to be recruiting them because they already are in your business, or they already found a business, they're already doing something, or you're not going to have to tell them what to do because they're going to tell you what they're going to do. 3% of the world are people that are decide and do. I'm hardly one of them. 97% of the world are people that wait for things to get bad and then they change. Now let's talk about that for a minute. 97% of the world are driven by things not being the way they want them to be. Pay attention to this, and this is why your recruiting has been all wrong up till now. And now it's going to get easy and fun. And how many of you are ready for easy and fun? Now, is it okay to admit we're wrong? Like, I like being wrong. There's some things I was wrong about in my life, and I'm very happy that I was wrong, right? So let me give you an analogy real quick that'll help you out. This will be helpful. So I take a picture of, let's say, back in the day, us boys would, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the guy. There was an Arnold Schwarzenegger workout dictionary we had, and you'd like cut out a picture of your face, put it in his body. Or some of you ladies want a picture of like a model in your head, and you put it on the fridge and said, my body, May 2023. I promise you, you'd still eat cheesecake that day. How many of you would agree? It's not going to do shit. But let's just say you take a picture and you get on Photoshop and you stretch yourself to 9,000 pounds and give yourself really bad pimples and say, this is what you look like when you eat cheesecake. How many of you realize the celery is coming out? Anybody getting this? Here's why. It's because that's not what makes people motivated. I'll prove it to you right now. And I want you to listen very carefully. I was sharing with a group in about 2006. And I said, listen, I got to tell you about the last year of my life. I got my home remodeled. I got to see my family twice. I got to go home and see my family twice. And I made a business move that made me double the amount of money. It's funny when I tell you that, that's halfway wanting to flip me off. How many of you would agree? Come on, be honest. You're telling me, who cares, right? But what if I tell you what really happened? I got to remodel my home because I had a flood and I had to move out of my house for an entire year. True story. Lost a lot of important stuff that mattered to me. My nephew was born with a condition that eventually it passed away from, but he was born with a condition where the 2 hemispheres of his brain never connected. True story. And my business move, I signed down with a bad business partner back in 2001, and it cost me $400,000 to get out of a bad deal. What's funny is when I told you what was wrong, how many of you recognize you wanted to listen more? How many of you understand this? If you do, say I do. Anybody catching on? You might not think we're negative as people. We're not negative. The negative part of our brain remembers longer. So I'm going to give you a line right now that's going to help all of you out, and it's going to help you in a big way. I want you to think about the reason you got started in this business. So we're going to play a game here right now. So is it Diane Solano? So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm going to ask you a question. Why did you get started in this business?
Single mom. Needed to pay bills. Borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Fed up with reaching a financial ceiling.
Okay. So the number one reason you got started in this business, you were in financial hardship, correct?
It was pain. It was pain that
Okay.
drove me.
I want you to think, did you get started because you like the comp plan? You like the products?
Nope. I trusted the leader.
Nope. You got started because you had a problem and then you were willing to listen. I want you to pay
True.
attention because then what does she do? I guarantee she goes, you got to see this comp plan. You got to see these products. What she's not doing is evoking the same thing that got you started. Now I'm going to call on somebody else. Thank you very much. Pay attention here. This is going to go very quickly. And I got about 22 minutes left. I do have a hard stop at about 24 minets. So how many of you are cool with another 22 minutes of learning? You guys cool with this? Okay. And if you don't like to, you can always leave. Nobody's going to hold you. So I got to say your name right. Sayobahan. How did I just say it?
Siobhan.
Same thing I just said. Siobhan.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
about the
very
same.
good.
Yeah.
So S, Siobhan, very good. So let me ask you, Siobhan, like a friend of mine growing up. So let me ask you a question. Why'd you get started in the business?
I was having a lot of medical issues and had just come out of a really terrible relationship with a guy who was completely unsuccessful in existence. And
So you used to date
realized
losers.
that-
Very good. Okay. Let's be honest. I used to date losers. Okay. Got it. Okay. Very good. So let's have a little bit of fun here right now. So here we are joining a business because we had a problem. And then there's some of you are like, I like the products. I like the comp plan. Not true. If you just got $1 million raise at your job, you'd never be doing this. If you had a guy that supported you, this is the last thing you'd be doing. Siobhan, if you had one of the Steve Jobs' kid said to you, look, hey, back in the day, I'm going to take care of you forever. You're now an Apple Air. You would be doing this right now. You would not. I don't care how much you like it. You'd be using the products and telling a few people on the side you wouldn't be here right now. Nothing wrong with it, but I want you to pay attention. So why is it that the number one reason we get started is we have a problem, but then we tell people how great the company is? I'm going to give you a magic line that's going to be able to help all of you in a big way. Pay attention. What's not perfect in your life yet? Now think of that question. When you ask someone what's not perfect in their life yet, they will then tell you a problem. Think of that question. So let me ask you this. So what's not perfect in your life yet? Like what's not where you want it to be? When someone tells you what's wrong, they'll tell you like, well, I'm having trouble with my bills. My money doesn't go as far as it used to, or I don't have the energy I used to have. Then you've got an opportunity to say, you know what? I might have a solution. What's funny is think about how that works. Problem, solution. How about I don't have a problem? Here's a solution, mother effer. That's what most people do to recruit. Do you understand? Hey, you need to buy this. You have no problem. We need to give them a problem and then offer them a solution. Now, some of you don't want to do this. Most people wind up at a chiropractor because they had a car accident. What they needed to say is, have you noticed as you get older, you have less energy? Do you realize a lot of that is the abuse you put on your spine? Most people don't know that. And what's funny is if you could just get that aligned, not only could you find a way to maybe live longer, you'd have more energy and your sex life could be better. What's funny is if you don't give them a problem, they don't have a need for a solution. How many of you realize your comp plan is not as exciting as you think it is? Because the comp plan only gets exciting when what? When what happens? When somebody does that. So I like to ask people what's not perfect in your life yet. And by asking them that question, it's not a recruiting question, but it's an important question. It's a question. It's not, forgive me, a prospecting question that you ask at a grocery store, but if you're out to dinner with your friends. So I was at an event the other day with Dr. Bob. Guy asked the question, what's not perfect in your life yet? So I'll go first. Here's what's not perfect for me. If people would be willing to talk about what's wrong, they like bitching, complaining. Once they tell you what's wrong, we can offer them a solution. Type in the box, ding, 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 if you're getting this, or give me a ding, or just a DDD. I mean, if you're getting this, everybody catching on? Is this making sense? This is a rhythm. It's a dance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, if it's what you want. So what I recognized years ago, there's only a few challenges that people have. I'll share with you in a few minutes, and I'm going to dissect Dr. Bob for you. How many of you are cool with if I told you, like I grabbed blood out of him and I looked at it and I found the 4 things that he's got that if you had it, how many of you'd like to know what those are? Anybody want to know what those are? Anybody game on? I'm going to show you what they are here in a couple minutes. Bob's like, I want to know what they are too. But once you recognize, this is going to be very powerful for you. The second thing is, how many of you ever been asked, so how much is it? Anyone ever got that question? Oh, we've gotten that before. Sharon on your iPhone. Sharon, last name iPhone. Let me ask you a question, Sharon iPhone. If I ask you how much is it, what are you going to say, Sharon? I gotta unmute you. Yeah. So what would you say?
For myself?
No, for your sister, of course, for you. So if I said to you, how much is it to get started? What are you going to say? And how many of you recognize I'm having fun right now? Would you guys agree I'm having fun? Would you guys agree? How many of you recognize you go around the business like, so do you want to look at the comp plan? And it looks like you maybe have to poop. Do you guys understand? Like we need to be relaxed. You need to be like you already pooped. Do you guys understand? Relax now. Very good. So let me ask you, Sharon, what if I ask you this question very simply? So how much is organo to get started? What are you going to say?
How much you want to say? For myself, I saved money.
No, you're missing the question.
I,
We're in
I,
the middle of a conversation.
I
So
know.
how much is it? What are you going to say?
I don't know. I
No, but
haven't
what,
got.
what would you normally say to me? Just give me an answer, and then I'm going to give you a really cool one. If you don't give me anything, I give nobody anything. A lot of pressure.
I know.
You would go into your racket about saving, correct?
Yep. I probably would.
So why don't you ask me how much it is?
How much is it?
I would say, wrong question. Can I give you a better question to ask?
Yes.
What would you like it to do for you? What would you like this business to do for you? And what would you like the product to do?
I like that.
No. Answer back. You're going to say you don't know. Well, we are a relationship-based company that is a team of human beings that work together to help you financially and health-wise to keep your goals and get the things you want in this world. So it's a few $1,000s a year to get started. But do you see what I just did? I could say any price at that point. So when I sell martial arts gym memberships, everybody knows that martial arts for your kids about $200 a month. I teach them how to sell it for $1,000 a month because here's what they say. Instead of how much is it? It's $200 a month and you get 5 sessions a week. They say this. Wrong question. What would you like it to do? They're going to say they don't know. So we are a relationship-based company that works directly with your family to help raise an incredible child. So eventually later in life, they have less challenge with their homework. They're able to deal with bullies well, but more importantly, work to get scholarships later down the road and be the next future's leaders. That's what we work together with your family. How many of you realize that's worth $2,000 a month? Am I correct? Stop selling what the company's offering you to sell, and we have to sell the ancillary benefit. Do you know why I go to the chiropractor? Because I would love to hold my daughter when she's 50 years old. I'd still love to carry her, because I realize that the most successful people in the world find edges and advantages in life. And I've recognized that the abuse I put on my body forces me to have to stay in alignment. So every time I get adjusted, it's like the lights go on. So I don't know how much they charge me, but it's worth it. The point is, people stop asking questions when you overdo the value. How many of you are getting this? If you are, say I am. Everybody liking this? How many of you recognize I've taught you one thing that would at least make you $300 to $500 already? How many of you realize that? At least $500? Okay. And if you don't, you ain't using it, right? So the last thing I'm going to give you is how to turn a no into a yes. So let's play a little game here right now with someone else. I am going to call on Janelle. Janelle's trying to hide, but I'm calling on you, Kruger. Okay. Janelle, you're up. Unmute. Let's do this. I got a lot of places to be. Don't hold me back. All right. You there, Janelle? I want you to, can you say the word no out loud? You get unmute.
There we go.
Say no.
No,
Say no again.
no,
Say no again.
no,
Say the word yes.
yes,
Which takes more effort? No or yes?
yes.
It's 3 letters, 33% bigger, and we are predisposed as human beings to not use that word. If you think of the word yes, the way the tongue works, I've worked with enough voice coaches in my life, it is a different part of the tongue. Yes. No is like you could say no and not move any joint in your body. How many of you understand that? No plants us still. So when you walk into a store, when I used to go to Chess King when I was a kid, how many of you remember Chess King? Like I wanted Cavaricci pants. I couldn't afford them, but I wanted them. Anyone old enough to remember what the hell that is? And I walked in and I wanted them. Can I help you, sir? No, I'm just looking. So if we know people are going to say no, why would we want them to say yes? So I'm going to play a little game with you, Janelle. You got to unmute again, Janelle. Don't be muting back. Don't do that, Janelle. Stop hiding. So Janelle, I'm going to ask you a question. So Janelle, do you want to be healthier and do you want to make a whole bunch more money?
Yes,
But you don't really mean it, do you? You're just saying it, aren't you? When I ask you like that.
correct.
So I'm going to get it a little different right now. I'm going to get you to really make a real decision. You ready, Janelle?
Yes,
So Janelle, if I could show you a way to make some extra money and and be healthier, is there any reason you would not want to hear about it?
No.
Great. Could we set up a time to meet next week and we could talk about it?
Yes.
I just got a meeting out of you getting you to say what you wanted to do. So let me ask you, Janelle, if there's a way that you could have less acid in your body, and you drink coffee, correct?
Yes.
If there was a way that you could drink coffee the same way in the morning, but it did more things for you, didn't cost you any extra, is there any reason you would not want to hear about it?
No.
I'd love to sit down and talk to you when I have time. When's a good time we could set that up? How many of you realize we just did voodoo and we turned a no into an appointment? How many of you are getting this? If you're getting it, say I'm getting it. This has made me millions of dollars. I use these techniques on a regular basis. Some people say, easy for you, fast talker. Not easy for me. I've done this. I've done 10 to 1,000 of these meetings. I did my 10,000 hour rule by the time I was 29 years old. I just got it out of the way. So you're going to have to decide, are you going to want to get better, or do we stay where we're at? How many of you are learning right now? If you are, say I am. Anybody getting this? I want you to understand, I am not a trainer that's going to get you, make a list of your 100 people. You have to do that stuff. I'm the guy that's going to rewire the circuitry inside your brain so you do life differently. How many of you would like to respond differently to things? Like, I'm the guy that tells you, stop saying you love cheesecake, because when you do that, you got nothing to give the one you love. What you need to say is cheesecake is yummy. When you say you love it, you'll never stop eating it. When you call it yummy, it takes all the power out of it. How many of you are getting this? It's yummy. I like to say, Starbucks, it's tasty. But if you say, I need it, it's like it's orgasmic to you. You need to stop doing that. You're using language that doesn't serve you. So I'm going to give you 4 very simple words. Like if I were to draw blood right now, through Zoom from Bob, grab Miranda's blood tube, shake it up, put it in a vial, and dump it on the table, I'd find 4 things. 4 things that if all of you are willing to take on are going to make the biggest difference in your life. Number 1, I'd find commitment. How many of you would agree the man's committed? Would you guys agree? Now, some of you are like, I got commitment issues. Not true. You don't have commitment issues. You're just committed to losing, some of you, and some of you are committed to winning. How many of you recognize you're using it for the wrong thing? He's rude, Michael. Would you be okay with me sounding rude and shaking you to wake you up? You got to decide. So I don't think you're committed. I think you have trouble with the second C, congruency. You don't do what you say you're going to do. How many of you realize if you did what you said you were going to do, you'd have a lot more money? Am I correct? We got to get over that story. I'm happy for you, Diana. Things weren't working out, Diane, but listen, we're done with that story. I'm a badass now and I make things happen. We're done with it. I used to live differently thing. We're done. We're just done. We're not doing that story anymore. We do a different story now. The point is, congruency means I do what I said I was going to do. How many of you recognize, you know how I know you don't do what you said you're going to do? Because I check in with you in January. In February, you're not doing it. How many of you recognize what I'm saying? I do what I say I'm going to do. I commit, I make it happen as an example, because I've accepted the power of my own influence. How many of you recognize when you're overweight, you're influencing other people to be overweight? How many of you understand that you need to stop doing that? How many of you recognize, I wish this world wasn't screwed up? You know how we make the world better? It's old school. It's 5,000 years old, a little statement called, the world gets better when we fix the things inside of ourselves. How many of you understand that? How many of you realize that's my dedication in my life? My grandma taught me that. It's very important. If you want this world to be better, you be better. If you were more confident, you would have a better world, period. And I don't mean the world, like stop with this whole like, oh, I'm going to change the world. How about your community? How about we start with your community, the baker, the candlestick maker? How about with the guy in your town, your chiropractor, your doctor, your lawyer, your little township or community? How many of you understand? Let's just start with our 10 miles of our house. We're going to make that better by being more inspired. How many of you realize if everybody did that, different world? And politicians wouldn't stand a chance being weak. We'd only have good ones. How many of you understand that? All the losers would be gone because they have no control over us anymore. How many of you understand this? Everybody catching on? How does the media control us? Because we're weak. How do you stop being weak? Number 3, confidence. You know what Bob is? Confident. In order to do an adjustment on somebody, takes guts. In order to put an IV in someone, takes guts. An offer to say to someone, you know what? Based on what you shared with me, I'm not leaving this table until you enroll. That takes guts. Someone said that to me. And I'm here today because someone had the courage to say that to me. Some of you know my friend Jordan. I've learned how to say a line. And one of the lines, very successful network marketing. One of the lines I use is, listen, you're going to call me in 2 weeks anyways and want to do it. Let's not waste 2 weeks. Let's get started now. You're going to call me anyways. Why would you waste 2 weeks? Why would you drink acid-driven coffee for 2 more weeks? How many of you understand that? That's made. What is our coffee about? What is the name? You drink stuff with poison in it. Do you guys understand? You can go have more poison, or we could start the detox today. Start the detox in 2 weeks, or the detox now. How many of you are getting this? Everybody catching on? Are we getting this? Boom. Number 4 is communication. How many of you would agree Dr. Bob communicates differently than you do? Your communication's either going to get better, or your bank account won't. You might want to write that one down, because I never said that before, but it sounds really good. Your communication's going to get better, or your bank account's going to shrink. Even sounds better, doesn't it? Your confidence is either going to get better, or you're going to keep on playing smaller. Your congruency, you're going to start doing what you said you're going to do, or people aren't going to take you serious. So these are the 4 things we need to work on. And you're like, I got it. These are my 4 things to work on. Very cute, thinking that you'll actually do it. But what's amazing is, do you know what the biggest issue why most people don't? Stubborn people start businesses. Stubborn people get into business, and stubborn people don't let people help them. How many of you would agree most of us are victims of our own stubbornness? The same stubbornness that makes us stick in the business. I get people say to me, I've been involved for 12 years. Then you should be a quadruple upside down backflip flaming diamond with lights falling off your ruby head and what it is you're doing, and you should own the company by now. How many of you understand that? Executive commander, 12 years. Stop telling me you've been doing this for 12 years and show me 12 years of results. How many of you understand where I'm going? Everybody catching on? So I'm going to share a story with you, and then I'm going to lay this out for you, and I'll open up for little questions if you guys have them later. And again, I have about 10 minutes, and I'm going to lay a little story out that's going to help you guys if you're interested in a big way. And this will be something to remember. How many of you are learning today? Anyone learning? If you are, say I am. How many of you wish I would go on appointments with you and do your selling for you? How many of you would love that? Okay. If you don't, I mean, that's amazing. I'd love that. Better thing even than learning, how many of you realize you're going to implement? You're going to find yourself naturally using this stuff, which is super powerful. So I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I'm going to ask you to relate to the main character. There was a guy that wanted to be very successful, and everything was working out really great in his life till it wasn't. How many of you have been there before? Everything was great till it wasn't. Unfortunately, this man, his wife passed away, and he went into a deep depression, grabbed his kids, moved to the middle of nowhere to Alaska, away from his San Diego home. Just wanted to get away from everyone. Told his kids how bad the world was, made enough money to get by, and just said, this sucks. Didn't look for a new solution. Didn't look for anything. Very, very skeptical, but he was stubborn. He'd figure it out himself. He would chop down his own trees. He would do everything his way. He would then chop up his wood. He would build his own fire. He'd make his own food. He would do everything himself because I can't trust people anymore. So one day it starts to snow real bad. Like at that 1993 snow where all of our towns closed down. Anybody remember 1993 when it snowed and it snowed? You remember this, right? In Jersey, everything snowed and it's iced over the roads. That was this guy. So what a day for the heater to go out. And he just put his kids to bed. Heater goes out, firewood's frozen out back. It's got another 10, 20 minutes. The fire's gonna be out and the house will be cold. He tries the Fonz approach, punches the heater, can't get it to work, kicks the heater, can't get it to work. Calls the 800 number, they can't get it to work. Goes to bed tonight and goes, I guess this is it. Sits down at the dining room table, down, and he goes, ow. And he sat on a phone book. Do you guys remember yellow phone books? Picks the damn thing up, throws it on the ground. Stupid phone book. A page opens. It says Magic Plumber. And yes, I fix HVACs and heaters. Call me if you need anything. I work quickly. Is this that secret stuff, that law of attraction? What is this crap? No way that'll work. He inches a little closer, picks up the book, looks at it, goes, I'll call the number. So he calls the number as a doubter. How many of you recognize most of you recruit doubters and you wonder why they're not winners? They're trying to prove you wrong. They're waiting for you to screw up because when you screw up, they quit. And they're sitting there like this and he's doubting. And the guy says, Magic Plumber, can I help you? He goes, yeah. My heater's broken. Great. Would you like me to fix it? He's so enthusiastic. Would you like me to fix it? I'd love to come over. I don't know if you can. Sure, I can. Would you like me to fix it? I don't know if you can. My brother-in-law couldn't do it and I couldn't do it. Why do you think you can? Because I'm the magic plumber and I can fix it if you want me to. I don't know, man. Do you think you can do it? He called him to argue. How many of you recognize how ridiculous this is? Like you're sitting here arguing with yourself. All right, whatever. Well, listen, buddy. Do you really think you can fix it? Yes, I can help you get anything you want if you let me help you. That's what I do. Get you what you want. Fine, come over. 3 minutes later, the magic plumber shows up. He walks right up to the front door. He goes, how'd you get here so quickly? I'm the magic plumber. I do magic. And he goes, fine, my heater's downstairs. Would you like me to fix it? If you can. How many of you have been around people this negative, or maybe you've been this negative? I know I have, right? At one point in my life, right? So the guy looks at the heater and goes, did you want me to adjust it? He goes, yeah. So he puts down his toolkit. He pops it open and he grabs a screwdriver and a wrench. And he goes, do you want me to? He goes, yeah, give it a shot. Whatever. So the guy opens up with the wrench, turns the screw about 1/4 of an inch. The thing turns on. The guy goes, that's amazing. How did you do it? He goes, I turned the screw and I used the wrench. He goes, but how? With my wrist, I turned it. I mean, do you need better demonstration? No, I turned it. And he goes, that's amazing. But how did you, whatever. How much do I owe you? No problem. $600. You've been here 5 minutes. I'm a single dad. $600. Are you crazy? What do you mean $600? Do you need an itemized receipt? Give me an itemized receipt, you con artist. All right, itemized receipt. Turning screw, $5. Knowing which screw to turn, $555. How many of you recognize you don't need to learn how to do this? You need to turn the damn screw. And most of you need to get better at screwing, and it's really good for your relationship. But how many of you recognize we need to get better at screwing things? Am I correct, everyone? And the reason I'm telling you this is, what does that mean? We need to do the work. And most of us aren't doing the thing. We're looking for a solution. We don't realize somebody's telling us what to say or what to do, but we got to get ourselves to do it. And at the end of the day, I've never asked anyone to do the $555 job. I ask people to do the $5 job. And what I mean by that is not economically, just take the action. I'll recommend what to do. It's worked for hundreds of thousands of people. Like when you mentioned Tom, Tom makes millions. Tom comes to me with these questions. And then you got a guy brand new in the business that doesn't want any advice. Isn't that funny? Tom calls me, you call me, Miranda calls me, and the guy just getting started that's got to figure it out doesn't call. So why does this come into play? It comes into play because I don't ask people to do the big thing. I ask them to do the little thing. So let me ask you a question. How many of you would love to become more confident, better communicators, more influential, and respond differently to all people's objections? How many of you would love that? How many of you would like that? How many of you would like to respond differently to yourself? Anybody want that? Respond differently to yourself. Let me ask you this. How many of you would like to learn how to get more done in 5 days than you have in 5 months? And in 10 days from now, get to a point where maybe you didn't get wealthy, but you didn't recognize your actions because you're acting differently. How many of you would love that? Anybody game on for that? I'm really asking you this. I don't mess around with my reputation. I don't mess around with my life. I don't represent with anything, but I make big, bold promises. You want to know why? Because it forces me to follow through. So what I'm going to explain next is not for everybody, but it's for those of you that are serious about this business. How many of you would like to kick ass at this business and stop screwing around? How many of you would love that? I mean, really serious right now. So I'm going to say something to you, and this is like a Dr. Bob special that I'm going to explain right now. I do not have to do what I'm about to do, but I'm going to give you a gift right now and an opportunity where you and I can work together. Most of my people, I don't have competitors. Nobody else does what I do exactly, which is neuropsychology and the brain, the way I do it. But most people would say this is ridiculous. I'm going to give you something special if you're serious about this and want to grow and want to change. I developed something years ago called Call to Action. Now, what it is, it's physically on a phone, which you can dial from your computer, a phone. Do you guys know what these are? Okay, a phone. And why do I use a phone is this. A phone forces you into one modality. How many of you would like to get better at speaking and listening? How many of you would like that? Anybody get it? Okay, if you can speak and listen, it's like doing martial arts blindfolded. How many of you realize if you could stop a kick blindfolded, when you take that blindfold off, you win? I got a $100,000 Zoom studio that we did a broadcast to 20,000 people the other night. We don't use it for this on purpose because how many of you recognize if we don't learn how to change the voices in our head, nothing changes? How many of you would like 5 days focusing on the voices in your head and to change the voices in other people's head? How many of you would love that if you would? Ding, ding, ding. It's the first step in our process of you becoming a master influencer. So the way the program works is this. It's normally $600. I got a very special thing I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to cut that in half. It's $299 if you're serious about it. And it's 5 days working with me, kicking your butt, holding your hand. I got a website. It's resultswithmichael.com. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to get if you choose to work with me. How many of you realize for 2 tanks of gas, you get a guy that bills out at $50,000 to leave my house? Okay. When I do one-on-one coaching with people, when they hire me for a day, I'm $50K. This is live with me. It's a game changer. It's resultswithmichael.com. The link will go in there. But let me tell you what happens. How many of you think it'd be really cool? Next Sunday, you dial in. We'll give you a whole portal and everything. But you dial in. You could talk with me live with a small group of people. And the first night, we get you taking action. And you learn how to really teach yourself and others how to create clarity in your life and how to develop a very specific plan that you could dominate every day in your life. How many of you would love that? Anybody game on? You'll have that by next Sunday night. You will have that already completed before you go to bed. How about Monday next week? Not this Monday, but a week from now. How many of you would like to learn trigger words? How to trigger yourself and others to take action immediately? How many of you would love that? Trigger yourself into action. Little words that you can use that instantly trigger people. And if I'm wrong on any of this, just call me afterwards, go liar. But you're going to feel like you ripped me off afterwards. How many of you are cool with ripping me off? With afterwards going, I took one from that guy. Damn, he didn't charge me enough. Day 3, how about I teach you how to destroy your comfort zone and other people's comfort zone so you stop screwing around with your life and start winning? How many of you would like that? Anybody game on? Your comfort zone will change. The 4th and 5th day of the program, we're going to teach you the skills you need to win and change the psychology of communication. It's going to blow your freaking mind. It's the beginning of a process of not just your business, making your life work differently. Most of you don't realize we're not equipped to make it in the world we live in right now if we don't do the things we need to do. So you want to go to the page, resultswithmichael.com. You click the little green button to enroll. But here's a couple bonuses I'm going to give you. Number 1, how many of you are cool with $300 off tonight? Do you guys like $300 off? It's not tomorrow, it's tonight. So you want to get with your team afterwards and share this. Number 2, tell me if you think this is cool. An audio set done with binaural beats. Dr. Bob could probably explain this better than me, but it's made to increase the parts of your brain that you listen to for 7 minutes in the morning and 7 minutes at night that increase your confidence without doing anything. How many of you would like to override the confidence portions of your brain? Anybody game on for that? It's free, giving it to you. It's $50 normally, it's yours for free. How about this one? The Network Marketing Toolbox. How to overcome any objection you get based on price or time or anything else. Every objection you could ever get in your life, you're going to have an audio with exactly what I would say. How many of you would love that? And how to prospect for profit, how to prospect correctly. Those are my gifts tonight for you guys for enrolling tonight and making a decision. Then once you enroll, something's going to happen. It's going to say, do you want the greatest marketing tool in the world? It's an average suck shirt. Why are these powerful? Because when you are an average suck shirt, people are going to stop you and go, dude, I agree. Well, let me ask you a question. What kind of coffee do you drink? We drink above average coffee. This is going to make you a lot of money. Plus, you can't be a loser at the gym when you are an average suck shirt. It also comes with a copy of my book that's $25 normally. It's $49 if you want both. I am tonight going to throw in 2 copies, one for you, one for your nightstand, one for you, one for the next person you recruit. How many of you would agree that this is a wonderful tool? So I'm going to give you this. This is tonight. If you buy it tomorrow, your team gets tomorrow, they get 1 book tonight. Here's the secret how to use the book. As soon as you get a new person in the business, you're going to sign it. Dr. Bob, I really love the idea that we're going to grow together. And the reason we use love is it's a powerful word. The adventures we're going to have for the next decades are going to be amazing. Your partner in success, Michael. Then right around this page in this binder right here, you're not going to tell them. You're going to write, call me when you get this far. Only winners do that. Here's my number. I'll take you to lunch or I'll get you something. Don't tell them, because if they don't call, you don't have a winner. They're not following instructions. If they do, they're going to look for Easter eggs the rest of their life. How many of you like that technique? Do you guys like that? Super powerful. So a couple things I'm going to say right now. Enroll. Do it. It's a no-brainer. I've been offering that. That is a price that we offered for this in 2003. So it's the Dr. Bob special. It's the You're a Badass special, resultswithmichael.com. If you're on the line right now, I encourage you to do it. I would get the book and the shirt. I'll send you 2 books, no brainer to do it. It's the beginning of our process. And other than that, I just love being here. I'm going to challenge you to make things happen. I got a hard stop in about 4 minutes, but I'd love, Bob, to turn it back to you. If you have any questions, anything, I know Bob's going to be joining us. Let me ask the big question. How many of you are going to be joining us for this? How many of you have the courage? Raise your hands to join us. I encourage you. And if $300 is a problem, you need to do this more than anything else. And folks, I don't need your $300 by any stretch of the imagination. If I don't charge, you won't take it seriously. In 2020, I gave it away. 95% of the people didn't show up. Period. So here's the deal. When you invest $300, you get serious, and then your problems and your dreams become mine. You hand them to me. The second you enroll, what you want becomes my responsibility to get with you. Does everybody understand how serious I'm taking this? Bob, back to you. I got 3-4 minutes. What you got? Any questions? Anything? Thank you. I'm having trouble hearing you, Bob, so you may be muted.
I am. Yep.
But I love what you said.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. We have so much that we can build on and grow on right there. And you know what, you just put really the teaser out there, because the real meat of what you have has created millionaires, billionaires, happy, healthy, excited, on purpose people.
Yes.
And everybody that's committed this time, listen, we're going to put the replay out immediately. It's on Facebook, put it on YouTube, get it to as many people as you can. The more people that take advantage of this, the faster your team grows, the faster your life gets better. Absolutely fantastic. You over-delivered.
Thank you.
You have a tendency to do that.
It's a genetic defect called over-delivering. Yeah.
I like it. Does anybody have any questions? You want to unmute?
I
or
can
put it
answer
in
a
the chat?
couple. I'm going to tell you there's a morning and a night session, so you don't have to ask. Single moms, moms of 9, dads of 15. There's a replay. There's 3 options: morning, night, and replay. No one's got an excuse. I don't care if you're a Kiwi from New Zealand, you could take it in the middle of the night or in the morning. We've put hundreds of thousands of people through this program. I can guarantee I will get a list of those who did and those who didn't, and those who did will be farther along, period. No questions asked. No question. Anyone got a question? I got 1 minute, maybe 2. Anybody got a question either about the program or a question about anything?
Michael, I want to make it clear. How long is the replay available?
Okay, so you're controlling the replay to send out physically, right?
Well, not talking about this replay. I mean, I'm talking about for your 5-day session.
I'm
long
going
is
to
the replay
break. The replays of it. It'll be available for the weeks of the course, and you have a year to take it. So you're not signing up for just August. You could have a year to take it. I'm going to go and do something very dumb right now. Not smart, but I trust you guys. And here's what I'm going to do that's not that bright. I'm going to give the bonus of the 2 books today and the bonus of the extra audios today. I'm going to leave open the discount until Wednesday. So you can share this with your team as quickly as you can, but I want you to pretend it's only good through tonight. Just because I think you got Australians and people that want to do this overseas, I want to make certain this gets shared. But I'm only going to do that if you guys enroll today and do it now. Do you guys understand? That's my deal. How many of you guys understand what I'm doing? I'm breaking my own cardinal rule because I should give you 10 minutes. But the reason I'm doing this is because the double book, that's till midnight tonight. The extra bonuses, that's for the next hour. Take advantage of this. The other people that enroll, they'll get the course at a discount. Does that sound fair, everybody? People that show up play. I got time for one question. Does anybody have a question about anything? My dog's name is Cinnamon. You guys want to know anything? My wife's Deborah. I have 2 kids. They mean a ton to me. I do all of this, and why I take the time away from them to do this is I want to have a world that my kids can grow up in. I'm going to die one day, and I'll give you the times in a minute, my friend. And I want to have a world that has entrepreneurs that my kids live past me. I mean, this is the reason I do this. I don't need to work anymore. I'm at a point in my life I don't need to do this. And I'm telling you that I could take off 10 years if I wanted to. Mike knows that. It's why he gets excited to keep me excited about this stuff. But I'm not telling you this to impress you. I'm telling you this for a very particular reason. I have children. I care about them. I need to get more people inspired and on fire. So when they're older and I'm not here anymore, there's normal people left in this world that can do badass things. So we can pass it on for the next generation. I need you guys to get it. So they've got people when they're in Ohio, when they're in Alaska, when they're in the UK. For my friend in the UK, you figure out the time zones. It's 7 a.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. So there's a course right about now, UK friends. It'll work all the time. I get UK people every month taking the program. So no excuses other than you don't want to grow. I got time for that one question, then I got to roll. All right, everybody, resultswithmichael.com. Go there. I appreciate you. Love you all. And there's a kickoff call on Thursday. If you could be on it, be super cool. I'm excited to see your faces. And if all you get out of this is you love yourself more and communicate differently with you, if all you get out of this is recruit 3 extra people this year, if all you get out, you're going to get so much more out of this is self-respect for yourself. If all you get out of this is stop screwing around with your life and get more, well, that was the cheapest $300 you ever spent because it's cheaper than a therapist down the road. So appreciate you all. Love you guys. Resultswithmichael.com. I got my shipping team ready to go to get those books out to you. And those of you make decisions tonight, I'm going to throw in some stickers and a couple other things for you guys as well. Some bonuses you're going to love. Thank you, everyone. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can email Mike at action@michaelbernoff.com. He can answer your questions. He'll pop his info in there and results with Michael. And you guys take it from here and I'm going to roll. See you guys. Take care. And I'm excited to see the winners that make the good decisions. Take care, everyone. Talk soon.
Thank you, Michael. All right, everybody. I'm going to get the recording loaded up to YouTube, share it with anybody that missed, let them watch it now, get them the extra perks, the bonuses, the savings. Michael's the real deal. He's got great strategies. The people that he's worked with already, just have nothing but phenomenal things to say. And my short work with him already has already been phenomenal. So we'll get the replays out, the recordings out, get registered, and let's make this a great year. Good night, all, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.